What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Thriving Minds podcast with your host, Walter Parada, where we strive to provide you with empowering talks so you can live to thrive. I hope you find yourself in the right frame of mind, focusing on all the things within your control. In today's episode, we'll be talking about believing in yourself. So what exactly does that mean to believe in yourself? This is such a broad term that's used when it comes to pursuing something ambitious. For the most part, believing in yourself is believing that you can do something beyond yourself or the situation that you're in, that you can do great things. And before you achieve something great, it all starts with believing in what you can do, even though you may have not done it yet, but knowing that you can. Believing in yourself gives you that extra push, or some would say it's a pull towards the goals that you're pursuing or that dream that you're chasing. It's a shift from thinking that it can be done to knowing that you can do it with enough effort and commitment to it. It really is a prerequisite to anything of value that you're after that empowers you to take control of your life. This puts that trust in yourself that you're going to take the necessary action to get ahead, to make progress, to get closer to the things that you're after. You leave behind hoping that things are going to turn your way, that you're going to catch a break, that luck is going to help you out, or whatever it might be. So it's not leaving a chance the things outside your control. And you're focused on everything that you can do that ultimately makes the difference. Essentially, you're preparing yourself for the opportunities that you create. Whether we know it or not, we actually create our own opportunities. Sometimes this is viewed as being at the right place at the right time. And ultimately, that was a choice that was made to go to that place. And what makes that right place at the right time is that you're able to capitalize on that opportunity, and that means that you're prepared for it. Oftentimes, this is seen as a moment in time that just unfolded favorably, but really what gets lost is all the work and preparation that was needed to get to that point. Any success that people have experienced is because they've worked their way into it. It might have been several months or years of work to get to where they're at, and this gets lost because of the focus of the destination. We're seduced by the accolades or the recognition that comes from the achievement that makes us lose focus of what it took to arrive there. So before you get to your destination, get in the process of thinking and talking about what you want and how you're going to get it. How you're going to prepare yourself to capitalize on those opportunities that you create. And when that moment arrives, you're better prepared to handle it where it feels less overwhelming and more of just that natural fit. To get to this point, it requires first thinking that you can, and then you can start to visualize it, where you're doing it, and this builds that belief within yourself. The more that you can do this, the more it reinforces and brings out your great qualities. Eventually, you take action and it builds momentum in the right direction. And when you can focus on the process of what you're doing, it allows you to better execute and less distracted by how things turn out. It's very tempting to be focused on the results, and that diverts some of the attention and energy away from what's right in front of us. And this lessens the chance of doing things well because emotions lead the way that cloud our thoughts and can make us forget important details. This can be a huge difference in how well things turn out. We want to make sure that we feel good about ourselves, where we're building confidence, and by focusing on doing the process well, it makes us less outcome oriented, and our emotions and our self-worth are independent of it because the effort and the execution is what's valued more. Getting to this point requires a lot of little things that must be done so you can develop that belief in yourself and grow it over time. Probably the first thing that's going to be needed is to get away from negativity, the things that limit you, because it's going to make self-doubt, that inner critic, less distracting from giving your best. Have you ever had somebody that you trust or that you admire tell you that you can't do something, that you're not good enough? This can cause you to pause and maybe believe that. And when that starts to happen, that belief within yourself starts to dwindle, that creates momentum in the wrong direction, where you're questioning yourself, questioning the moves that you make, thinking that you can't do something. It creates an unhealthy amount of subconsciousness that makes you hesitate, and it keeps you from giving your best, where it causes you to overthink things and primarily focus on what could go wrong. This then leads to staying in place, just keeping to yourself. So come to evaluate what you have in your life. And this means the people, the information, whatever you consume, and see if it's contributing to the belief within yourself. And if not, get away from it so you can unlock what makes you great. This then naturally builds your confidence because you're free to do what you enjoy. And when you enjoy what you do, you're able to be your full self. You can think less and just do. And the more you find what you're good at, it further empowers you. It's remarkable the more action you take, even if it means falling short of what you expected or things turning out poorly. It means that you made a proactive choice. And when you're proactive, it means having a better chance of getting ahead, of improving your situation. As your confidence grows from taking action that leads to favorable results, you can draw on those experiences going forward. So if you've done well in your field of sales or sports, you'll be confident that you can continue to do well and get even better. Your mind has mapped out a trail or a route that outlines how to continue your success. But confidence alone does not equal greater self-belief. Confidence looks to the past to draw strength from so you can move forward, whereas self-belief is about what you potentially could do that you have not yet done. Self-belief is what gives you that boost to take a risk in an unknown field or an area that you're unfamiliar with, to give you the thoughts and vision to find out how to make the leap, figuring it out to make it work. So if you excelled in sales or in sports, that confidence gained from it may or may not translate into believing that you can step outside yourself into something new, which might even be terrifying. But what will develop and build self-belief is the things that you internalize, your self-talk from childhood all the way to now, how you dealt with challenges and setbacks, how you interpret messages that are directed at you, especially when it hurts. And all this affects how you view your potential and yourself. The greater your self-belief, the more likely you are to surpass your potential that leads to extraordinary things. It's breaking past that set capacity or what was perceived a limit. Confidence can be gained relatively quickly, but belief in yourself is a long process, a culmination of how you process what you go through. With the right perspective of bettering yourself, ever learning, searching for opportunity, and rebounding from things, the greater you believe in you. To know that you can take on new things, things that are scary, things that make you question, is it worth it? This is going to help you navigate uncharted waters, to be able to see things through, and this develops your resourcefulness, which requires going through hard times. In going through these unsettling experiences, it acclimates you to being in the unknown, the uncomfortable, but you continue to forge ahead. So embrace new things and just use it as opportunities to gain something of value, no matter the outcome. If you're struggling with self-belief, it can feel as if there's very little hope in developing and instilling it. But you can do things to combat that. So like mentioned before, much of the self-belief is how we handle experiences in general. And the more negative those experiences are perceived, the more it limits what you believe about yourself. And that's going to continue to be the case unless you make the necessary changes. To counter this, take the time to reflect on those perceived negative experiences and question how you handle them or interpreted them, as this is going to help you give some distance from being emotionally triggered by it. It just takes away those unsettling feelings to really process it a lot better. And then you can ask yourself, why did I feel that way? Why did I take things in a certain way that makes me question things about myself for the worse? The more that you're able to do this, it gives you the opportunity to really become a lot more neutral, and then you can focus on what you could have done. But it's going to be important not to dwell on it, where you say, I should have done this or I should have done that in the past, because there's nothing that can be done about those events. So use what you could have done and apply that going forward, where you say, next time I know what went wrong and I know what to do. And this just naturally is going to make you better, naturally going to develop you into a more empowered person. A common thing that many of us face is constructive feedback that hurts us, even though at times it can feel like it's destructive criticism. And there are cases where legitimately others come off very abrasive, overbearing, or even demeaning. So it's going to be important to try to find the right message, even if it's coming from a point of negativity. An example would be working on a big project. It could be a presentation that you gave or an assignment that was completed. And let's say the audience or the person reviewing the work really lays it on you and says, it was horrible. How could it be so bad? What were you thinking? These are very aggressive words that can trigger us in wanting to fight back with some sort of insulting or defensive rebuttal. Or it might make us crawl into our safe space and just shut down. This is a very natural and even reasonable reaction because that's how we're wired. It's the fight or flight. But a constructive way to handle that, even when we're being attacked, being insulted, is to dig deeper and ask them specifically, what exactly was horrible? What did you want in the presentation or in their work? What was I lacking? When you phrase it like this, it starts to get past the emotional state in wanting to react and more thinking about an effective response. We got to remember that sometimes people lack communicating exactly what they want and react obviously with their emotions leading the way. To a certain degree, it's on each and every one of us to find out what a person specifically wants to communicate to us so we both can gain from the interaction, or at least we ourselves gain from it and not take it so personally, even though it's valid to do so. In the process of doing this, it might even get the audience or the person that is engaging in that aggressive manner to reconsider their approach. They might realize that how they came off is ineffective and they need to be calm or neutral to make communication constructive. Now, obviously, there are certain people that may not realize how their behaviors affect others for the worse, or they may be even doing it intentionally to get some petty response out of you. But if you fall into that trap, then it chips away at your self-belief. It gets you in that defensive mode that is trying to protect things about you and can make you angry at those that said those hurtful things. Yes, this is a very hard thing to do, to respond in such a calm and effective way. But if you can go into situations mentally prepared where if people do come off in this way, you can have a response ready for it because now you primed yourself emotionally to experience things and it settles you into that state and manage it better. So in those cases where you're worried or fearful of the things that might happen, instead of trying to fight it, scathing off those thoughts, go down that route and take it a step further and say, how can I figure out a solution for this if it does happen? How do I counter that? How can I minimize the damage and gain something out of it? To really have a solid plan, more than just thinking it out, but actually talking it out to yourself, saying, if the things that do worry me happen, I can respond this way to better handle it. You can even write it out and then you say it out loud. And if you do that, now you've done it 3 times in 3 different phases where you thought about it, you've written about it, and now you said it out loud. This reinforces things a lot more that's going to help you respond that way. This might seem silly or unnecessary, but it's truly an effective way to get you to settle into what could be difficult situations. If not, it's the tendency of being defensive. Taking on this type of approach can combat some of those experiences that were taken very negatively, and it allows you to move on from limiting beliefs that others or maybe even you put on yourself. Many of us know that when we take things personally, it can make us bitter and cause us to be self-destructive. And many people's advice in situation is don't take things so personal. That's such a stupid thing to say because it's like common knowledge or common sense because we know not to take it that way. But that's our instinct to self-preserve and be safe. Instead of people giving out such generic advice on what not to do, actually give out some helpful tips and showing us how not to take it personal. Or better yet, not to take it personal, but to take it constructively. Effectively, what can be gained out of difficult situations. Even words like that, don't take things so personal, contributes to chipping away at self-belief because it kind of implies that you're soft or that you're weak. It'd be better in a situation like this not to even try to give some sort of advice because it's doing more damage. If you happen to come across this type of perceived words of wisdom, just ignore them and you can move on from these type of people because they're contributing to limiting beliefs. And to further that belief within yourself, surround yourself with the right people. There's that saying that if you don't believe in yourself, who else will? Well, there's actually people who will believe in you because they see certain things that you might be unaware of that are your strengths or that you do well. So by them being in your lives, they can help point that out to where you can remember that. There's a tendency that when we fall short of what we're pursuing, we can ruminate in what went wrong, what should have been done, and this makes us forget about the things that did go right, the things that were done well. And these empowering people that you have in your life can help you in those times to gain perspective and not dwell on negativity. They'll refocus your efforts on how to continue to build on what did go right that prevents you from being overly critical or negative when trying to fix or improve the things for the next time. I can remember when I started my career in agriculture, the work environment that I was in was everybody was looking out for my weaknesses. And they would focus on that, saying, you're not doing this, you need to do this better. And that affected my confidence. It started to chip away at my self-belief that I could do this job effectively. But it didn't chip away at the self-belief in myself to do greater things. Eventually, it got to the point where I realized I was not the problem. Even though there are certain things that obviously I needed to work on and develop, but it was a toxic environment because the people were limiting me in what I can do. My strengths were not focused on, so I was constantly doing things that I struggled with, and it was hard to gain traction. And that helped me move on to better things. So it's important that if you happen to be struggling through a certain time in your life, really look at the people that you have around you and just decisively figure out if they're helping or hurting you. And it might seem like this tough love approach or this toughen up mentality, but if people are breaking you down or demeaning you with the intention of making you stronger, that's that old school macho mentality of only the fittest of the fit will survive and all that jazz. I think this is to kind of expel what they deem the weakest link. It's kind of an elitist mentality that limits what we all can do together. And instead, we should be focused on developing, building people up, and making them stronger because with everybody being stronger, we're capable of so much more. And this truly produces a flourishing culture that allows so many others to flourish. Maybe that's what they don't want because they might feel threatened. Who knows? But genuinely successful people want to see others around them succeed, want to just see others in general succeed. So make the necessary changes for you to really better yourself. Find those people that are really there for you, that are really wanting to help you out, and can do so in an effective manner. While there are people out there that want what is good for us or what's best for us, they don't know how to facilitate that because maybe what they were shown was how not to do something or just doing things poorly. One of those ineffective ways of belittling people from those that are trying to help us or guide us or whatever it might be is that when setbacks are experienced, they'll just say, oh, just move on from it. Stop crying or get over it. And probably that's because that's how they were raised. That's how they were shown or whatever it might be. Maybe they were told as kids, don't cry because crying makes you weak, or stop being overly sensitive. And instead it should be, well, if you cry, well then that's the way you handle it. But let's not make somebody feel bad because that's what they do. That's a natural thing that's already within them. It should be about, well, if that's your approach, then go ahead and process it that way. But I can be a resource to talk things through, to overcome this hurdle of what you're going through. This is where that emotional intelligence really pays off big because of the ability to be compassionate and empathize, where we're not feeling pity for somebody, but instead it's understanding where they're coming from, thinking about how we can help them along the way. Self-belief is a vital part that we all need to make necessary progress that we want in our lives, no matter how big or small in what we're pursuing. That self-belief comes from so many different things that we experience, how we internalize things. So it's going to be important to focus on how to effectively interpret situations. This obviously takes a lot of time to process things of what happened in the past, not to dwell on it, but to figure out why you took things a certain way, what you could have done better, and apply that going forward. Yes, many times people can come off very aggressive towards us. That makes us want to retaliate back. But we got to have enough control of ourselves to figure out what we can take out from those interactions that we have with them. And when you can do that, that self-belief grows even when setbacks or the desired results are not reached. It's so seductive to fall into the trap of feeling discouraged and lingering around, possibly giving up when you fall short of your goals. But the greater your self-belief, the more you can forge ahead and continue to pursue what you want. Persistence and resilience are the backbone that helps you bounce back in the face of despair. It's knowing that just because it has not yet been done does not mean it can't be done. And it's a greater power that helps you draw on that energy to continue to give your best effort each and every time. That uplifting sense of self-worth that's going to allow you to achieve great things. Confidence can elude us at times because it can come from what happened in the past to draw on reassurance that you can do it. Whereas self-belief is a sense of resourcefulness that you'll figure it out some way, somehow, even though you have yet to do it. It's paving the way into the unknown, which makes many hesitate. But the difference in those that achieve what they want is the constant pursuit. It's the collective body of work of what you take in, how you process it, and what you do with it. It's a powerful force that will dictate your life. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right, and the amount of self-belief controls that. So feed yourself the right information and surround yourself with the right things and the people to unleash what makes you awesome. So believe in yourself, because you can achieve many wonderful things. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're interested in more topics like this, become a Thriving Minds member at www.thrivingminds.live. It's your personal development resource so you can build that right mindset so you can live to thrive. All right, until next time.